Babble with Ben.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Taylor Macleod. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
What's news? What's been happening?
Just life in general,
Yeah.
a lot of work, a lot of music-related stuff, thankfully. Slowly but surely coming along, but yeah, absolutely, it's going ahead. So,
Because you do production and engineering, yeah, as well as playing guitar.
absolutely, that's me. That I try to be very all around with it. I
What
guess
sort of music do you find yourself gravitating towards?
that is actually a very good question because it kind of changes.
Good.
Every once in a while. Like I remember when I was still studying here, actually, I was very gravitational towards soul music, jazz music. I just found myself a lot of those bands because a lot of bands around here were very much of that style. So, I found myself gravitating towards that a lot. Even for my final end of year EP, one of the best bands by that point that I'd recorded, band called Tono.
Yes. Yes.
If we remember those guys. They were, I think, still to this day, count as the best band, that wasn't my own, of course, that I actually recorded.
I think I even saw a Tono show once or twice, actually. I'm sure I saw them at the Workers Club once. Were you at that show as well?
Yes, I believe I was, if that was the case. I think I got a nice little shout out from Tom on stage.
Good.
So that kind of made me feel like, hey, I've done something for someone.
Because Tono, I remember it was made up of the names of the band, wasn't it? There was Tom Potter for the T.
Yep.
There was Ollie Bug or Collins as
Ollie Bug.
Yep.
Terrific drummer.
Then we had N for
Nick Vargas.
Nick
Yep.
Vargas on guitar. And that leaves an O for Oscar McAlpine, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yes, it does.
Yeah, on bass.
And together they were like a match made in heaven. They really made some great sounding music together. Nick Vargas, absolute riff machine. He'd be coming up with some grooves that even I'd look at and be like, dang, son, you're like a kid in comparison to me, and I can't even do that.
And that stuff is that stuff on Spotify? Where, if people want to listen to Tono, where can they hear it?
I'm not actually sure if they ever ended up releasing anything or whether because I know for a fact that they don't really do much anymore, and it's really disappointing. And I wouldn't want to, because I recorded some higher quality demos for them, which ended up appearing on my final EP assessment, if you like, in 2019 when I was finishing up. So I wouldn't necessarily put anything out there without their permission.
Of course, yeah.
So I don't know if they ever want to hear that stuff again or anything like that. But they were saying they were going to do a different recording or something like that in terms of releasing it if they were ever going to do that. But I don't think that ever went ahead. So
It happens sometimes, isn't it? Like groups will get all excited about a recording and then the self-doubt creeps in. I find that with stuff as well. I've got
self-doubt indeed.
hours of stuff on the hard drive where I'm just like, oh, is this good enough? Am I supposed to put this out? Whereas sometimes with newer stuff, like I find that the longer you hold on to a recording, right, the less likely it is to come out. Like I find the stuff that I do in one night and just put boom straight out there. It's like, yep, cool, that's done. Whereas stuff,
then you don't think about it much.
Oh, absolutely. But whereas stuff, I find I've got stuff from 8 years ago, and I think, oh no, it's almost like a sacred object and a nostalgia thing. And I think, if I put this out, it's never going to be as good as I have been building it up to be 8 years in my head. And so, I find it personally a real trap, and I'm now finding, okay, get things out quick.
It's very much like that. I know the feeling. With me in particular, and with my band Golden Estates as well. In very early days of 2020, we actually had an EP scheduled that we were going to actually do a majority of the recording here at Box Hill, and this was for a friend of mine's end of year assignment. He wanted to actually record us, and we were just like, absolutely, we'll try and have some things ready to go. And also simultaneously, we had about 4 or 5 gigs lined up in a row, which we were really excited about. and everything like that. But that was in April 2020.
Ah, of course.
And if we all cast our minds back to that moment, we'll...
Do we have to?
I'll get a refrain.
Oh, no, continue, sorry.
No, like self-explanatory, really. It never really ended up going on, and those shows never, I don't think, ended up being rescheduled, or they just got completely replaced with other ones.
Of course.
And we've, as a band, even to this day, we've really struggled trying to get our first few gigs absolutely lined up, because it's just, in other cases, it's with other members as well. Like at the moment, we are kind of technically down a bass player. We're about to ask a good friend of mine and Caleb's, actually, and if he's in, then we're going to be super happy.
Oh, good, because it's Caleb Sankey.
Sailor Kanky. I guess you can call him that if you want. Shout out to my drummer. You're a good lad.
So Caleb on drums, you are on...
I'm on one of the guitars.
Cool.
And I, because we have Elijah Kosh as well. If
Yes.
those in the audience remember him, he's a absolutely versatile, very talented guitar player as well. And we try to actually complement each other, and we also try and play to our strengths, not so much our weaknesses. He's very blues music inspired and oriented, I guess. So he's very good like that. It definitely sounds like I'm listening to a Clapton record or something. He thinks Eric Clapton's God. So I can't admit, me too.
What is the vibe with Golden Estates? How would you describe the music that you guys are making?
The current music at the moment, that's a very good question, because we have a real mix of influence. We started off, we were going to be more R&B soul influenced because of our very first singer, Mr. John Russo, actually. So he was going to be the original vocalist for us. But I think he, if I remember correctly, he just wanted to do his own thing kind of thing. So left on pretty good terms, I guess you could say. So it was all good. We remained really good friends and stuff like that. Absolute weapon on the voice as well. Like, he's really, really soothing to listen to. And you could definitely tell the influence with soul creeping into his voice and everything like that. So he was perfect for what we wanted at that particular point. But when we kind of realized we wanted a bit more edge in the music as well, and I don't think the vibe that he would have wanted would have suited us wanting to go in that direction as well. Because when you think about it, you have me and Caleb in the band, and Caleb loves his classic rock influences in terms of like Led Zeppelins and stuff like that.
Of course. There it is. Led Zeppelin t-shirt for the people at home. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for the epic music tastes, Dad. Epic shout out to my dad on your podcast. Hello. Mum too.
Dad.
Hey, Mum.
Well, so Led Zeppelin's one of your influences. Who else would you describe as your influences?
That is a very good question, because I've got so many from many different genres as well. Actually, before settling on originally what was going to be the softer side with Golden Estates, I come from a background that involves a lot of metal, metalcore, punk, hardcore, those kind of edgier genres, if you like. So I had a lot of experience with those kind of communities, especially in my hometown where I'm from. Like, I was friends with a lot of those guys and sometimes used to play alongside them. So
where are you from?
Mildura.
Up on the Murray, yeah.
All up on the Murray, northwest Victoria. Hot as hell. Especially when it reaches January.
Oh, I can imagine.
That's a killer of a month.
I was up at Tokemwell, which is, of course, a fair hike from Mildura, but yeah, it's always a bit hotter.
Oh, it always is. Like, northern Victoria can absolutely, and indeed, like Broken Hill area, just the southern end of New South Wales that are borderlines can get super intense with its heat, and you always ending up a little bit more red than usual. I'd like to think I tanned well, but I have a bit of a t-shirt tan, so
Oh, I have a classic moon tan. Yeah, definitely. Like no, even when I'm outdoors, I tend to wear a long sleeve shirt. Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes you want to. I don't know. I never really felt too great wearing singlets. Like even when I was gymming and stuff like that, I wasn't like toning up as much as I wanted to. So I never really bothered with singlets and stuff like that. And I didn't think they ever suited me. So I'd always been a t-shirt, and they were usually had a graphic on them or a brand name of some kind.
Can't go wrong with the classic black tee. That's for sure.
Definitely. Oh, these ones used to have like, I don't know, California and crap like that written on them. Or, yeah, I used to love that shirt style. So I'm kind of glad I grew out of that in a way. I still have some of them, but they're bed shirts now because they're well and truly worn out.
So you grew up in Mildura. When did you find yourself thinking Melbourne might be a good place to live?
Interesting story, actually, because I always kind of realized right from the end of school, like I obviously wanted to pursue music in some way, shape or form, and wanted to do, mainly did want to do a band style thing, but that kind of fell apart very quickly.
In Mildura?
In Mildura, yeah. So there wasn't too many like-minded people, I guess, that really wanted the exact same thing I wanted. And by that point as well, 2013, that was the year after that I finished up school and everything like that. So I ended up working 2 jobs simultaneously. One was in a pharmacy, which I'm definitely glad I'm out of. I really did not enjoy that too much. So, but the music stuff for a long time had to be put on kind of hiatus in a way. I didn't play as much as I wanted to, and kind of found myself kind of slipping into, I don't know, lack of practice. So whenever I did pick it up, it's just like, what? How do I even guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you get to that point. But the following year, like I only went back to one job, which was the same job I'm in now, which is in a supermarket, you know. Ended up enjoying it a lot more, even though it has a lot of its downsides as well, especially back in my initial store. But, you know, it was definitely far more enjoyable than trying to balance 2 jobs and not finding any time for what you wanted to do personally. So it was kind of a bittersweet moment in that sense. So the following year, I actually managed to do a little bit more in the music side of things, but I took up a TAFE course actually.
Yeah, where did you study? Was this in Mildura or was this in Melbourne?
This was also in Mildura. It was a year course, and it was a certificate 4, I believe, in screen and media, and it had a little bit of sound production squeezed in, but that only lasted for like a small semester. It was like semester 3, so, you know, the small one.
It sounds like you were hooked, though. It sounds like whatever you were learning in that certificate in Mildura, you were like, yeah, I want some more of this.
I want some more of this. Yeah, it was great because when I was a kid, you know, before I got more into the music side of things, I really used to enjoy cinematography and really used to love behind the scenes, you know, about how, you know, your favorite films were made, the decisions and the techniques used behind it. I was always fascinated by that. And of course, that also gravitated towards music as well. So, and that's really where my love for production came in, kind of thing. So I really enjoyed the production side of things, even with music. So eventually I thought I'd go down this path, and never thought I'd nosedive into it quite like I did.
Sometimes it just pulls you in, doesn't it? I had
does.
a very similar experience where I got out of school. I did half of a degree, half-heartedly in IT, and then I went into a career in IT. And so I was in IT full-time for maybe 8-9 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I was miserable. I really hated it by the time and I was very lucky in that I got a redundancy and I could take a little bit of time to discover myself. And so I was on the dole for a little bit. I was, I got fit for the first time. I started doing kung fu, and
lovely.
I had a mohawk, and I was doing all the. I sort of had my early 20s about 10 years late. You know what I mean? Like I sort of had that rebellious phase, and that was when I did something similar to you. I went and did a music production course, and then I was because I'd been playing guitar since maybe 1920. Not
19,
the age of 19 or 20. I'm not quite that old. Not 102.
Well, you definitely don't look it if that helps.
There's a couple of greys.
That's all right. I know the feeling.
And then I found, when you pick up the guitar, you're just like, okay, well, how do I record this? And then, I remember having this beige Tower Pentium 3, and I bought an M audio interface that was like a card and a box on the top, and I started plugging things into it and using Cubase, like a cracked copy of Cubase.
We all start off with one of those.
I was hooked. I was like, wow, this is so great, because of course you can you not only can you record the guitar, but then you've got all these drum machines built into it, then you've got all the effects for the guitar as well. And I definitely, was messing around with that for maybe 6 or 7 years. And then I wanted to be a musician, and I thought, okay, well, here I am using computers every day, right? I can do computers, but I want to be on stage, right? What's sort of halfway? And then it's like, ta-da, production.
Ta-da, production.
And so I went to NMIT, and I did at night school, I did a certificate 3 and 4 in production. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you could have joined Periphery, like that band. They are very known for actually using their Axe effects and laptops on stage to actually get their sound. Fantastic live band. And their vocalist absolutely can pull off those high notes.
What are they called? Periphery.
Periphery.
Do you know them? Or they're on Spotify? Or
yeah, they're on Spotify. They're pretty big international American band. They're one of those guys. I wish I knew them personally. It's actually Nolly Getgood, every kind of producer or aspiring producer who enjoys metalcore knows that name, because he's considered one of the greatest metalcore, heavier music producers. And he really was a fantastic bass player. I think he was the bass player of Periphery, before he decided to do production full time.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of what inspired me to get like the really good drum sound, like in light of being a guitar player, I'm very fascinated with a good hard-hitting drum sound, like I guess it comes from the fact that I played drums before guitar, and that kind of was a bit short-lived, but like my determination to just get behind a kit when I started out, because I started as part of the school program, like I can't remember what the deal was. I think there was it was suggested by my parents that I take up an instrument in school or something like that, and in hindsight I was very happy that I did that, because in my secondary school years, we had this thing called Blue Week and Gold Week, which was like a rotating kind of roster in a way for school. And both weeks I either had maths or science after lunch.
Oh, that's cruel and unusual.
That's cruel and unusual.
Just when you want to sleep.
When you want to sleep, indeed. But it was good for me because it lasted for like half the session, so I was able to get out of one of my 2 of most hated subjects. So I was able to go and play some drums and learnt a lot of the theoretical side of, patterns and warm-ups and rudiments, which if I can say to any aspiring drummer or even my current friends who play drums, keep on your rudiments. They're epic for like just keeping yourself refreshed with technique, and they come in handy when you're even writing drum parts, I guess. Like paradiddles and stuff like that. They're fantastic. So,
for an uneducated singer such as myself, what is a rudiment? What would you call a rudiment?
just like a warm up pattern almost.
Ah,
I guess
yeah.
like it's heavily related to that. Like people would will gravitate towards that, just warming up. Like a lot of professional drummers will, if they're really serious about it. I know a lot of other drummers out there don't like them because, you know, it's much like a guitar player, really, who wants to just be stuck for like 10 or 20 minutes just warming up. They'd rather just be at the bar having a beer or something.
Oh, well. It sounds like a rudiment is in the same sort of ballpark as a scale, maybe, but for drummers, is that?
Yeah.
Or a lick, maybe? Or
Lick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's along those kind of lines. So rudiments are very good for like a paradiddle. Everyone's heard of a paradiddle, may not necessarily know what it is, but it's definitely a very popular rudiment with drummers. And they will definitely use that as a warm-up, especially when they're about to hit the stage or something. And because I enjoy a lot of music that has a lot of kind of like your snare rolls. I absolutely froth a good snare roll, you know what I mean? So, and I'm trying to find an appropriate one to put somewhere in a Golden Estate song.
Of course.
Yeah. Which is strange because with the style mixes that we have, it doesn't really call for it a lot of the time. So with the new batch of songs, I'm trying to kind of keep to the same vibe as what we've got going now, but maybe go a little bit grittier, maybe get a little bit more edge to it. And I was talking about this with our singer and Caleb as well, is that in terms of lyrical content, we kind of want to drop the whole maybe past relationship issues kind of thing, because that can kind of make its way
It's
into
a
the
gold
songs.
mine for songwriting, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, hey, Swiftie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can make an entire career of it just about. So,
But not for you guys. You guys are going to look forward to the future, hey?
yeah, pretty much. Like, I have expressed to the guys, like, I wouldn't mind doing something that's not of that kind of cliched kind of my heart's broken and it's on the mend. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Would you do some metalcore?
Oh, absolutely.
But
We
the
just have
people
to
at
get
home-
some 8 strings going.
Now, I had Shannon Hart on here too, and he was talking about metalcore. And in the back of my head, I was like, I know what metal is and I know what hardcore is, but I don't think I know exactly what metalcore is. What?
Solid blend between the both.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what are some key features of metalcore? And who are the metalcore, acts to listen to, the seminal ones?
Oh, there's so many.
Top 3.
Well, for me personally,
Yes.
Architects is definitely one of the big ones for
I've
me.
heard of them, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. They're a fantastic band to, especially their early stuff as well, like very heavy kind of thing. I absolutely love that band. North Lane.
Yep, Shannon talked about North Lane as
Yep,
well.
absolute metalcore icons. Although they were very metalcore oriented back in their earlier albums, but then they kind of shifted and then they did a more progressive metalcore kind of sound, and there was a lot of interesting kind of stuff they did with time and all that kind of stuff. And nowadays they go into like the whole kind of industrial metal rave kind of thing as well, which I'm a big fan of. But they can take many sounds, if you like, and they can incorporate that in their music, which I do find very cool. And big shout out to Marcus Bridge as well, who is the vocalist for that band, and I may be a little biased when I say it, but he's definitely one of the best vocalists I find in all of Australia.
Wow, yeah.
Like that's definitely a personal bias thing, but his voice is just something else.
North Lane, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can definitely give some key songs to check out after the podcast or something. So yeah, I can definitely do that. And they're a fantastic band, and they definitely cross over into the mainstream pretty well. Like it's not just metalheads that know them. You know? Another metalcore band. Well, another Aussie band, probably the pinnacle of Aussie metalcore, but Parkway Drive.
Parkway Drive. Yeah,
Parkway
I'm
Drive.
sure I've seen them on Triple J Hottest 100s before.
Oh, they
They're
definitely
huge. Yeah, yeah,
They're absolutely huge. They break into national heights, man.
yeah.
And the interesting, inspiring story behind those was they completely did it by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't rely
Independent.
on... Yeah, they independently did it. They nearly, I think, lost a lot of their money going to the States themselves and trying to
Wow.
actually just travel and tour as much as they could. But they also picked up a following in the meantime. So that's kind of like an underdog story that I would very much like to replicate, maybe with our band as well, but who knows, with the help of the internet and stuff like that and the audience that can actually be reached nowadays, putting in quite a fight like that might not have to be quite as necessary. I know it can definitely be emotionally and physically taxing. So with the help of the internet, I think a lot of bands will find themselves on easier streets, I guess, particularly as states. And we still yet to put some songs out there, but we're definitely working on it.
I'm looking forward to it. Like, I'm following you on
absolutely.
Instagram. Definitely. Like,
Absolutely.
when those songs are ready, you've got an audience. Definitely.
100%. And, I'm definitely keen to talk even more about these songs as well on future podcasts if you ever want me
yeah.
back.
Come on back. Come on back.
As many times as you want, like, jeez, I'll be your main guy. I'll be the face of the podcast.
when they're ready, especially like when they're ready, just come on in and we can talk it and
talk it, absolutely.
And it'll be great to hear the sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these songs, have definite soul influence. There's jazz influence in there as well, and that really comes through during my time here at Box Hill. I just ended up finding that was a lot of what I heard from bands around here, so it kind of got weirdly ingrained in the psyche, and that kind of comes out in your influence.
That neo soul jazz fusion vibe, it does permeate the building, doesn't it?
It does. It really does, and I love it. So, I've always been a fan of jazz music and soul music ever since I can remember. I grew up being rocked to sleep by my dad to Miles Davis.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just found myself very early on in life gravitating towards jazz music and classical music as well. I was a big classical music fan when I was a kid, so loved your Mozarts and your Bachs and Beethovens and all that kind of stuff. I was a big fan of that when I was a kid. Like Mozart, the obvious favorite, and I used to listen to that when I was a kid, and hopefully it kind of did what they say, make you a freaking genius at a young age. I don't know about the genius part, but either way, I definitely love the fact that was the earliest introduction to music, if you like. So classical and jazz.
Pretty solid introduction. The two genres I think I got into the last. I mean, of course. Only
Totally
really
inverted.
here, because when we would do history classes and we would learn about, where the Baroque period starts and ends and where the classical period starts and ends, and same with the Romantic one as well.
Oh, yeah.
I had a real moment because I couldn't read music before I started coming here. Like I could sort of bash my way through it with a keyboard, right?
Don't worry about that. Just learn tabs, man.
I found that there was a moment where we were studying a composer called Salieri, who I think was a contemporary of Mozart, right? There's this famous dramatic movie called Amadeus where there's this rivalry between the two composers. And apparently Salieri wasn't the villain he was painted to be in the movie, right? But I remember listening to his music whilst having the full orchestral score here in front of me, and because I had a little bit of, I could certainly follow the contours, and I remember just going, oh, wow, okay, so here's the violins, and they're doing octaves and thirds, and, here are the bassoons, which I don't think I even knew what a bassoon was until I came here, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, yeah, they're just mirroring this line here, and then You'd have violin ones and twos doing these crazy like lead lines, right? But it was kind of it cast a light on that music, and it stopped being this impenetrable like miracle, right? And it was like, oh, actually, no, there are parts. It's a bit like. It's a bit like when you take apart a computer for the first time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the first time I took apart a computer, I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, okay, well, this bit drives the screen, this bit's where the information goes. Whereas up until then, it had just been this magic box. Yeah. And it was the same learning to read music. And then, because I always found that classical was not what I gravitated towards. I was more like I when I was growing up, I had a Prodigy CD, Fat of the Land, and I thrashed the shit out of that CD. Sorry, Mum and Dad, you probably heard smack my bitch up from a 15-year-old's room. And I look at it back now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why people were getting upset about the content of that, but. It's funny how, if you're not edgy when you're 15, are you really 15? You know what I mean? Like,
Can relate. I liked the heaviest of the metals at that point, like the real hard shit. I was into
What were you listening to when you were 15?
When I was 15, actually, I was Children of Bodom were my
Children of
favourite band.
Bodom? Yeah, what's their vibe?
Like quite heavy yet melodic metal. Like,
yeah, cool.
It's difficult because not even they can really pinpoint their genre. Unfortunately, their lead guitarist / vocalist passed away at the end of 2020, and I'm still to this day very bummed out about it because he, for the longest time when I was like 15, even coming off the edge of 14 as well, was a big driving influence as to how I played. So by the time I was like 15, I was only playing for like 4 years, but because of him, I was able to play fast, and I tried to watch his sweep picking techniques on guitar and being able to play fast and all that kind of stuff. And I spent hours, used to listen to their music and try to figure. So sorry, Mum and Dad.
It is magic when you've got these records that I mean, even just learning the chords, I found it was Jeff Buckley was who got me into guitar, right? And I remember getting a tab book of his, and I remember I was obsessed, and then I picked up the guitar, and then I would try to figure it out and get absolutely nowhere. But then I bought a tab book, and it was like a huge investment, $40 on a tab book, right? But then I was like, oh, okay, this is how he gets that sound. This is what these are the notes he's playing. Because he uses some crazy jazzy chords, right?
He does.
But the tab book wasn't entirely accurate. I don't know whether you found something similar. Did you ever grow up on tab books? And
books, yes, but in the very early days, because we used to have like pretty piss poor internet connection at that point, dial-up mode, and it wasn't necessarily the fastest of internets.
Oh, so, dial-up, yeah.
Say no more, right? But as soon as I got access to, and whenever Dad used to allow me to use the computer, I used to jump on the internet and just try to look up tabs. Like, that's really, back in the day, was the only thing I really cared about the internet for, was what can I learn that I'm really passionate about now. And because of this, I was able to actually progress a lot faster than most other kids probably were when they were starting off a guitar. I managed to pick up guitar pretty quickly, and because at the end of my tenure playing drums, which was my big passion at that point, it came from a sporting injury, which involved my ankles.
Oh, not good for drumming.
Not good for drumming, especially if you like to double kick. So I never. That was a sad time in history because coincidentally at that point, like, we had health classes, and my class group, if you like, was scheduled to do health class coincidentally with that period in time when I just had my injury. So my fitness kind of went down a little bit, and also my ability to play drums kind of with my legs, with my feet. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't practicing. And yeah, while I was kind of just on the recovery point from that, I was just really motivated to care more about guitar, which I mean, I kind of wanted to do both equally and try to get good at both. But that, I think, was the motivating driver to really get better at guitar. And yeah, just fell in love with it from then and there, really. And, you know, even though I don't play as much as I want to now, I still kind of feel the same way about guitar. You know, you figure out things every day, and you, if you feel like you are making progress, you still fall in love with the instrument on a daily kind of basis, which I love.
That's the beauty, isn't it? I mean, even though the drumming is not quite as bright a dream as it once was, when one door closes, quite often another door opens, hey?
Absolutely. Although part of me regrets not really going back to drums later when I was... Because, you know, if I would have stuck to drums and got quite good at it, who knows, World War III might have broken out about which band I was going to join.
It's never too late. You could get back into the drums.
Probably could, man. And I would definitely love to do it at that point. But I think once I've got a little bit more room wherever I'm living at that point, I'll definitely get an electronic kit in there. And even for production purposes as well. Like, oh, hey, did I mention I'm a producer?
You did. You did.
I did. So it would be nice, even if it's an electronic pad. Well, not like an electronic pad, but like an e-kit. That can be used
very
to actually,
popular. Yeah,
to recreate those drum sounds. It'd be fantastic. And I've got some neat ways of creating samples, if you like, and really making the drums even bigger. I try to do that with the Golden Estate's demos at the moment. Even though they're demos, I want them to kind of sound good.
Of course.
I mean, they don't sound too bad at the moment, spoiler alert. But yeah, I just want them to get better and sound bigger and sound like we're kind of semi-professional band at the very least. So...
Well, look, we're definitely all looking forward to it. Look, we'll wrap it up there. It's been really great to have you on, Taylor. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
And
finally,
as soon as that stuff's out, you know, I'll be the first person listening to it. So
maybe
push it my way, and I'll push it out. Cool. Thanks very much.
No worries. Thank you for that. And yeah,
I'll catch you next time.
Rock on, bud.